Welcome to the Tomb of Horrors.
When last we left our hapless fools, they, as you know, trying to take on the Tomb of Horrors, and last time had gone through the Misty Archway, ended up in a room, ended up back, and they basically ended up back where they started. So they were still in the entrance hallway after all this time, and I think we had 4 character deaths so far.
One guy went in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
One guy died to, in the hallway, one guy went in the mouth, one guy died to the poison spikes.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone
crushed
died
under
in the
rubble and just getting into the thing. So yeah,
one died to darts or to the gargoyle or to the pit, the 100-foot pit.
No, they all fell into those things, but they didn't die from them. Theophania almost died from a combination of the gargoyle and then Otto busting the door off into her face, but I think she had like 1 hit point left, so she did not die. But
excellent.
Anyway,
having 1 hit point left in this adventure is a very liberating experience.
So 2 adventures in, they're still in the entrance hallway, but they are determined to move on, and they were not looking at the green devil face anymore, but they were trying the Misty Archway. They don't know, but they didn't want to try the Misty Archway first because they realized like maybe there's more secret entrances in this hallway. So
Otto
basically took his battering ram and systematically demolished the entire hallway. Remember, it was all paint. It was like painted plaster with all these like seeds. He destroyed every single square inch of the hallway.
Went down the hallway, smash.
And he found the rest of the pit traps.
And
we found the rest of the pit traps. We had ropes tied off and all that.
Yeah.
Before they did that, they just all walked along the whole floor and triggered all the pit traps so they knew where they were, and then smashed every single bit of the hallway walls and did not find any secret doors. They had like Otto going along smashing and other people going behind like inspecting the walls for secret doors. And so then they thought, well, there was a secret entrance, a one-way door that led back from that lever trap room to the bottom of a pit trap. So what if there's more in those pit traps? And I was like, okay, that's fine. You can climb down there, but there'll be an easy check involved to not slip and fall onto the poison spikes.
Yeah.
And they're like,
so
no.
we were like, we can deal with the poison. We have as much common items as we want. I have all this lantern oil. Let's just pour oil into all the pit traps and set them on fire, and it'll burn off all the poison. So I methodically smashed every fresco in that hallway, and then I dumped oil and set it all on fire. And then we went outside and waited while a column of billowing smoke came out of the tomb for a while.
Yeah, they had supper. And then, a caravan passed by, and they were like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Yeah. What you up to? Just burning the Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah. So when we went back in, like there was like shards of plaster everywhere, and everything was blackened and charred with smoke, and it was just, yep.
That's how you do the Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah.
Yep.
A bulldozer.
So then they climbed down into the various pits, and I think they only failed their check once. They got like 1 hit point of damage from the spikes because they weren't poisoned anymore, and searched them all thoroughly, except no one slipped, because every time Theophany had climbed down there, she'd roll great on her acrobatics check and then roll a terrible perception check, and then be like, okay, didn't find anything, and came back up. So
if there is anything down there, you guys don't know about it, but you're too dumb.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Theophany is our professional rogue, right? So we're trusting her when she says, "I searched it hard and I didn't find anything."
Honestly, I kind of expected Otto to go down there and just smash everything.
Smash the spikes. Yeah.
Smash the spikes. Smash the walls. Smash everything.
I filled the pits with fire. I think I'm done my part in destroying those particular.
This just makes me want to run this with like a different group of players. Be like the Tomb of Horrors after this group was done. You go into a hallway, it's totally smashed, and there's a bunch of broken, burned out pit traps. Okay.
There's the corpse of an adventurer in one of them, and
twisted doors are lying off their hinges everywhere. Some of the doors have been made into scaffolding to get over some of the pit traps. Yeah.
So what happened next?
So they didn't find anything in that. So they decide, okay, the Misty Archways are our only ways. They decide, okay, first Farshim, I think he actually did this earlier, but it doesn't matter. Presses the yellow, which is on the bottom left. Pretty sure yellow, yep. And then he went through the Misty Archway, and it just teleported him back to the lever room. And I think everyone teleported back to the lever room and tried the levers in every single combination. We calculated whatever, there's like 27 combinations, and it only takes like 5 seconds. So they, in like 5 minutes, they can try every combination.
Right.
And none of them did anything except for the one all up and all down.
Yeah.
Then they go back and they're like, okay, well, we'll touch the blue one on the top. And they go through back in the lever room. And they crawl all the way back there. And they're like, okay, let's try the orange one. They press the orange one, and the mist's clear. And
See, we cleverly figured out that the combination is yellow, blue, orange.
It turns out that the yellow, blue, orange is the combination. And they just happen to press them in that order randomly.
Yes.
No, we're professionals. We did it because we're smart and clever.
As you were telling that story, I was like, oh, this is going to work out for them.
Yeah. And so they go through, and I ask, okay, are you going through on the path or off the path? And first, Farshim goes through off the path, and he gets teleported back to the entrance of the thing. So he walks back, and they're like, so he teleports back to the beginning, and so then they decide, okay, well, let's
on the path.
Yeah, we'll go through on the path. And so they go through on the path, and first Theophany and Farshim go through, and they wait to see if they die and come back 5 minutes later, and then everyone else goes through. And they end up in a small room with a gargoyle statue. It's another 4-armed gargoyle, but
one of the arms is broken off.
Yeah, one of the arms is broken off and laying on the floor. And Theophany has already examined it, and she's discovered that, or I don't remember who examined it ultimately, but they've discovered that each of the arms, including the broken off one, has like a socket that's like designed to hold a gem, and it will fit your standard dungeon gem, but it would also specifically fit the gems from that collar off the other gargoyle.
There's a standard dungeon gem.
There is, It's
I'll upload the picture for that because I got it all handy here.
Yeah. So it wasn't hard to spot the gem slots, but then we started okay, what are we gonna do about this thing? And we're just having all these random why don't we pick up the arm and slap it with it, and all these random. I don't know what anyone should we put the arm on? Should we break off the other arms? I don't have any clue. My memory twigged. I remember that this thing was in here, but I don't remember anything about it.
Right.
Yeah. In the end, Jean-Claude decided to put a gem in one hand, and nothing happened, and then a gem in the other, and eventually put a gem in all 3 of the hands attached to the gargoyle. And at that moment, it went crunched them,
destroyed our gems,
and dropped the dust on the ground, and then returned to its original position.
Yeah.
And
we sort of interpreted it as being almost jerkishly. It crushes them, and then it just dust. More, please. and so this is where we can. No, it was later on that we concluded that Asurarak isn't actually trying to kill us. He's just a colossal jerk. But this is kind of
very well be
the most obvious start of that, because what's the point of this thing? It's a gem crushing statue. That seems to be what it does. So we're screw this thing. I think we took its arm, and then we there was a crawl passage out of the room. John initially didn't realize it was waist high. He thought it was a passage. But it turns out that didn't really matter all that much. So I don't know. Did we do anything else with the gargoyle after it crushed the gems, or did we just sort of screw this guy?
I think so. Yeah, they just were like, whatever, we can come back here if this matters. So they just left it. Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe we can come back here. Who knows?
So they crawled out, and they came out into this another huge long hallway, the hallway of the Orbs, and it has all these basically these orbs. Well, they're painted orbs, so they're really circles. But it's all along the walls, and
I think I got the picture of that too.
Yeah.
Now, my fresco lust had been sated in destroying the entry hallway, so I was willing to sort of, let others take the lead
Yeah.
on this one.
So yeah, it's all these. They can see all these painted figures holding orbs, various heights. So there's like a gold high overhead, orange held at waist high. There's a door, purple at the feet, another door, bronze at waist high, they're all down the various sides, and they actually crawl out of the one at the far north end, gold high overhead. So they as they're crawling out of it, they can see it's like an illusory thing. Once they're out of it, it like looks completely solid. So that immediately puts them on the idea that other orbs could be
illusions.
entrances.
Yeah.
So they start
Now-
investigating them.
Yeah. I have in excruciating detail written down all the notes about like what colors the orbs are and where they're all placed and stuff like that. But I suspect if there's anything clever to figure out here, we're just going to brute force it like everything else we've done so far.
Yeah. So they do start going. They start going down both walls, tapping each orb, but doing them in staggered, so that if there's a trap, it's not going to catch multiple people. So they start going down, whatever, and I guess ultimately they discover that there are 2 orbs on the east wall that lead to crawlways.
The black at feet and the red waist high.
Yes, and they also determine that both of the doors on the west wall are not trapped, but one of them is rolled really well and was able to determine just by looking at it that it was a false door. So it's just another fake door. But the other one isn't trapped and they haven't tried it yet. And there are 2 passages. And then at the end is another Misty Archway. And
oh, right, with the citrine, yeah.
yes, it's clouded, and it has, the left-hand stone is olive, the one on the right is citron, and the one overhead is russet.
Gary Gygax.
Yeah.
Yep, he loves his colors.
So,
Kind in his old-timey words.
Yep, russet mold. Anyway, so yeah, we sort of like, I think we had one of our standard, like, what should we do next? And we all talk over each other with random ideas and stuff. And then finally one of us just decides to go into the black at feet passage. I think that was pretty much how it went, right?
yeah, it was just kind of arbitrary because it was first.
Yeah, it was the thing along the east wall. And we've been through one of these crawl things. So we're like, okay, crawl things. Yeah, we've done a lot of crawling in this adventure. Where did Mika go?
I don't know, but apparently he can hear us. So.
My oven beeped at me, so
yeah.
my food.
So
All right.
yeah, so they crawl through this crawlway, and the first thing they're thinking, so it heads east for a while. They crawl east.
We determined our marching order as well. So who was in front? I think Jean-Claude was.
Jean-Claude was in front, then Otto.
Then Otto. Then
I think
the rest.
Yeah. And then
ultimately it's just the first 2 that really made a big difference in what we're going to get to.
Yeah, actually Farshim was third, I remember, because it made a slight difference. But the anyway, and everyone is just crawling around, and of course Theophania has to army crawl, but they're crawling through this thing, and it's really long and hard on the knees. And they crawl east for a while, then they crawl south, and then it crawls back west, and they're like, is this just going to come back to the other orb? But it didn't. It kept actually going way further than, like, it must have gone underneath or whatever, because it went way further. And then it went south, and then it curved, and it like curved and curved and curved. It was like a 25-minute crawl.
Yeah.
And it terminated at a blank stone wall.
Total dead end.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to let a dead end get in my way of going forward.
Obviously.
However,
so Jean-Claude's in the front, so he examines this wall. Like, is this another one-way door, another secret door? Doesn't find anything. No, it's just a dead-end stone wall. But then Otto needs to try his brand of searching.
Yeah.
Yep. But the problem is I'm behind Jean-Claude, and we're in a tight crawl space, and Otto is
like 25 minutes to crawl back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
and Otto is 320 pounds of muscle.
You can't exactly squeeze by him.
With a further 300-pound chest of gear that I'm hauling along behind me. I assume I must have been dragging it with a rope or something.
I guess so.
So we have to do do some acrobatics checks to trade places. And there's a lot of squeezing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think did we both take damage, or was it just Otto that
Well,
took
one
some
person
damage?
did poorly and the other person critically failed, I think. And so
Yeah.
they try to get, and they got stuck. They got stuck like with I think Jean-Claude was on the bottom and Otto was on the top, and they were jammed together. Their hips were like locked or something. They couldn't get past each other, and I couldn't get back either. They were totally stuck. And so then
We were
Farshim grabbed Otto's feet, I think, or was it
would have been
Jean-Claude's
Jean-Claude
feet?
because he was trying to get Jean-Claude
And
out
pulled
of there,
him, and there was a lot of checking, and finally they got past each other, but everyone took like a d6 of damage from the
the deadliest trap.
yeah. But then finally Otto was in the front.
And then I limbered up my portable ram, and I started testing for a secret door.
Mm-hmm.
And I found one. I cracked that stone block and eventually smashed open the supposed secret door that was supposedly going to obstruct us, but doesn't. So far, have we found any secret doors the old-fashioned way?
No,
we've just...
I mean, I guess you were suspecting. No, everyone you've just busted off. So
yeah. Yeah, we come to the end of the hall, and it's like, well, it's recce time. So smashed a hole. Another door knocked off its hinges, and through it we saw this sort of cathedral-y, temple-y place.
Yeah, I got a picture of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to describe it, John?
I actually happen to have the thing up so I can read it. You see, it's obviously some form of temple area. There are scenes of normal life painted on the walls, but the people have rotting flesh, skeletal hands, worms eating them, and so forth. Yet there are also depicted various religious symbols of good alignment. There's a mosaic path leading between the 4 rows of wooden pews that face the worship area. In front of the pews, a wooden railing divides the south of the room. South.
See, it said four rows there.
Yeah, that's interesting, but then it clearly has 3 in the other description. So, there's 3 because that's how we did it. So,
yeah. Yeah, when I originally did the map, I drew 4, and then it was like, there's only 3. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. Turns out I wasn't mistaken. The world was mistaken.
Yeah, it might have been a mistake on my part as far as understanding the thing, but whatever. There was clearly 3 because that's how it was when we played it. So,
yeah.
Also in the southeast corner, so like to their right, and in the front there's an altar that's glowing blue. No, yeah, like a blue, and there's an archway with orange mist. Another one of those misty archways.
Despite the drawing,
on the right.
Despite the drawing, however, it didn't have glowing stones at the base and top.
Yes, yeah, that's interesting. It didn't have glowing stones, but even though the drawing has glowing stones.
Yeah.
The description specifically says no stones glow. So I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what's up with that, but anyway, so I don't remember.
Great Gygax wasn't perfect, I guess.
A number of his artists may have failed him. Anyway, they everyone kind of started checking out different things at once. I think they were tired, so they sat down on the pews, and that let them make a spot check, or not perception. They noticed the pews were hinged. They're like chests, basically, like seat chests. So immediately, Jean-Claude and Otto, I think, or was it Farshim? No, Jean-Claude and Otto start opening the pews. So they open the back pew, and it's chock full of copper pieces. It's like
no, it was silver.
Yeah, you're right. Copper. It was silver. Yep, silver. It was chock full of silver pieces, and to their practiced adventurer's eye, they could tell they have about 4,000 silver pieces in them. So they open the other back pew, another one that's chock full of silver. So great. They open the next one, and it's chock full of this archaic type of
garbage currency
that's not currently used, called electrum. But it would be worth quite a bit to a collector. So they figure there's about 3,000,
electrum. Equivalent to 3,000 gold or something.
Yeah. And then they open the other one.
Treasure hardly matters in here. It's more electrum.
More electrum. So they bust open the front pew.
Otto
The
dies
room
anyway.
fills with poison gas.
Poison gas. Yep.
And everyone starts choking and coughing, but everyone makes their fortitude save except for Farshim. Now, it's supposed to, at least in this 5th edition version, it's just supposed to leave you the poison status effect for 48 hours, which gives you disadvantage on everything.
Yeah.
But Farshim was just like, I would rather die. And I was like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. You just don't fight the poison, then you choke and die of the poison. Because that's really better for everyone.
I would rather have a weird personality quirk forever.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the characters don't necessarily realize they're gaining these quirks until they may figure it out, but yeah.
Right.
So, yes. So he was killed by the poison gas. So
I felt it was very appropriate that, yes, we're down in the tunnels, and when the air goes bad, the bird dies.
Yeah, but that pew was chock full of gold. 2,000 gold pieces.
Yay, gold.
And actually, I'm looking at the description, and how it was supposed to be is there was supposed to be 4, and the third was full of gold, and the 4th was empty and full of poison. But that's not how we did it, so that's not how it was. But that was my mistake. But whatever.
Okay. As long as we got the poison, that's the important part.
But they're like, well, there's probably gold in the other one, so
also probably poison in the other one.
So Pulmanik readies a gust of wind, and they open it, and poison gas comes in, but he shoots it off, and it dissipates down the crawl space or whatever. So they're all fine. And
just blow it through the portal.
We have no idea. We haven't touched the portal yet. We're gonna get to it. We're being methodical.
A few minutes later,
sort of,
Farshim appears sitting on the back pew because they appear in a nearby safe place, resting, and he continues in his brooding way, but is saying things like this is really annoying. And are you sure that we need to be here? So,
his new quirk is he rolls his R's.
Yes.
It is really annoying.
Very good.
Yeah. Fortunately, he's playing the strong, silent, brooding type, so he's probably not going to say a whole lot. But
he's just rolling his R's in his head.
Yeah. So I think the next thing that they looked at was the altar, and I think was that Otto that investigated the altar.
I think so.
First. Yeah. So he went up and looked at the altar, and he touched it, and the altar.
Wait a second. Before we did that, we did a whole lot of random messing around with the archway, and nothing came of that.
Yes, they tried touching the stones that would have been glowing in every combination of like 3, and then I've had them roll, and they're like, they didn't make their intelligence check, so they weren't sure, so they did it again, and then they were sure, and then they did every combination up to 4, and the mists never cleared. So
I know nothing came of it, but I just wanted to make clear that we had exhausted a whole lot of possibilities before we started doing stupid things.
Right.
So
Otto goes up to examine the altar, and everyone's like, okay, quick, hide behind the pews. So everyone hides behind the pews because the altar's glowing blue, and he goes up to investigate, and he touches it, and sure enough, bah, shoots a lightning bolt down the center aisle and zaps him, and he dodges, but it's like a half damage thing, right? So it electrifies him and leaves him with 1 hit point.
And as I was saying earlier, 1 hit point is very liberating in this dungeon, because then you might as well try out anything that'll get you killed.
Yeah.
Because nothing that can happen to you will have any permanent, long-lasting effects.
That's right.
So
you're just gonna get your hit points back. That's the only thing.
That's going through Otto's mind, and Pulmanik goes up and he's like, "Let me examine the altar, and he's gonna do something." But I think it was before that. Otto was like, "Hold on, before you do that,
I got 1 hit point."
Yeah.
I got 1 hit point. I'm gonna try that arch. And so I charge into the archway just to see what happens, because I got 1 hit point.
Yeah, everyone's like, what? And so he goes in there, and it's just a blank room. It doesn't teleport him at all. He just walks into this blank room, and you can see right back in the orange thing. However, I inform him over Slack. Yeah,
it does 2 dramatic, unusual things. 1, it flips my alignment. So now I'm evil Otto. But worse, I lose my mustache. My beautiful, glorious, wonderful mustache. I had this huge handlebar mustache because I'm a circus strongman, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has reversed my gender. So, or Otto's gender, that is.
Yeah.
So
Otto,
You got to
yes.
know Gary Gygax's got to involve some kind of reversal of gender. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep. So
evil female Otto is now in the room.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And it's just
And-
this empty 10-foot square room, but I'm not paying a whole lot of attention because I'm aghast that I've lost my mustache.
Right.
And they start calling in. They're like, "Are you okay?" And he can hear them, or she can hear them and call back.
Yeah. And I basically, say, my mustache. It's destroyed my mustache. And I still have 1 hit point. So I let's try coming back. See what happens if I do that. So I go back through.
Yeah.
And absolutely nothing happens. I just walk through and I'm back in the room. I'm still evil Odette.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to secretly play an evil character. This adventure is gonna be weird, okay. But I want my mustache back.
Right.
So we're like, well, maybe going through again will reverse the effects. So I go through again because I still have 1 hit point, so why not try stuff? And it does reverse the alignment change, but it doesn't reverse the gender change. And it does 1 hit point of psychic damage to me.
Yeah.
So Odette walks through the archway and bleh, falls over dead. She's like, ew!
Yeah. The psychic pain of becoming good again.
Yep.
So
There was no psychic pain in becoming evil.
Mm.
So yeah, 5 minutes later, Odette respawns on the back bench where Farshim had done. Still female, but good now.
Yep. Yeah.
And at that point, I think she decided not going through the archway anymore because
not gonna mess with that because I don't want to be evil again. I mean, it's interesting how alignment swaps work. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't have told them if I was evil, but have now been evil and gone good again. I could tell them, that oh yeah, I sort of for a few minutes there, I was like feeling intensely selfish and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
I was about the evil.
We were talking about it after, and I was because Otto is kind of like a hero of the people, and so I figured his evil opposite should be like a tyrant. And I mean, I don't know how a tyrant necessarily would behave in a party, but that would be the best.
I was like instead of doing these things as an example for the people, as a to give hope to the masses and be a shining exemplar, I was going to dominate them and
using archaic power that you find in here, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Instead of a dark lord, they would have a queen.
Yeah. So
beautiful and treacherous as the dawn. Yes.
So the other thing that happened was they Polmanik investigated the altar, and once it had shot its lightning bolt, it started glowing red with blue highlights. And he figured it was going to do something similar. And he has this staff of the Magi that can be charged by spell effects. And the first one was a lightning spell, so he assumed it would be something else. So he touched it, and sure enough, it blew up into a fireball. But he was able to absorb that into his rod and charge his staff of the Magi from that.
Sweet.
And that destroyed the altar. And at that point, they basically gave up on this room, and they were like, "Hey, screw this place," and they crawl back through the half an hour crawl space. Yep. And went back to the Hall of Orbs.
Big pile of money and poison gas and an exploding altar and a gender-swapping arch, and that's all. This was where we concluded for sure. Asurarak is just a jerk. he has spent enormous resources building not a death trap, but a screw with the players trap.
Yeah.
He's not here to kill us. He's here just to waste our time.
Maybe eventually kill you, but kill you slowly and torment you and make it.
Yeah. So we're really gonna smash him up when we find him. Oh boy, I tell you.
So And that's actually where we left it. So they got back to the Hall of
Yeah.
Orbs, and I believe they're intending to go through the other
Crawl.
Yeah.
space. So,
Yeah.
but,
And
Yeah.
it will be easier if Odette now has to bypass someone else in the hall, because I went, and when I first statted up Otto, I went and got the physical stats from a real World's Strongest Man competitor just so I could get a realistic height and weight thing. So I went and did similar with a female bodybuilder. And Otto has lost over half his weight. It was, yeah, and also a foot of height. So Otto thinks she's is very small now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tiny. But of course she's still huge. So yes.
That's pretty good.
Yep, there would have been spoilers if you'd gone and checked on my character sheet before we had this this tale telling, because I've already updated it with a new photo and
Yeah. Now
changed the name to Odette, and yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure the link is in the Slack channel here.
Well, somewhere I could probably dig it up.
Scrolling. Huh, maybe not. It's probably in my history though.
There, I just reposted it.
Odette Wilhelm.
Odette is apparently the feminine form of Otto.
Oh, is this like the woman that you looked up?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just like, because it's hard. You got to find someone that doesn't look freakish, but who looks sufficiently muscular, and that's not an easy thing on the internet.
Yeah.
So I found her, and I was like, okay, I'll just use the stats of the real bodybuilder behind that, and I'm like, wow, Otto is tiny now, but still has a strength of 29.
Who would have guessed?
Yes, so she can now lift 6 times her own weight instead of merely 3.